What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, Psychosis Through Osmosis here, and we are back with episode 83, I believe, of the video game therapy series. Be honest, my brain kind of feels empty right now, so hopefully I can turn that around. Otherwise, you will not be hearing this. But I guess if you are, that means I was able to finish. But not in that way. But anyway, yeah, we're back, episode 83. Let's see. Already back to the drawing board. Good start. My first topic is propaganda, and that word is used. I don't really know. My first kind of knee-jerk reaction to it is like from like history class. We kind of always spoke about propaganda, like war propaganda or gender-based propaganda, all kinds of propaganda. And it was mostly like you kind of associate it with like the Russians or the Nazis or something. And we kind of think, we kind of assume that because we have this historical knowledge of propaganda, we're somehow, more immune to it now. But maybe my barrier is just lower, or I have like, I guess, a different perception of it, but I feel like I see propaganda all the time, but I can't really call it propaganda, right? I have to call it like, misinformation, or use some other like term that isn't quite the same, but really propaganda, I guess to define it, to make it better or more clear to talk about. I guess you could loosely define it as like government sponsored, ideology, or there's some hidden agenda. All these sound like I don't know, associations with conspiracy theorists, which I guess is the difficult part of even using like the word propaganda. But I feel like it shouldn't be too far out of bounds to use it, because it does still exist in many different forms. Like, I think a lot of us would agree, like if you live in a Western country, you certainly see a lot of propaganda by other countries, especially like totalitarian ones, and other ones that we tend to think that we're above just because we're Western. But I feel like Western democracies are just as, just as liable to have propaganda than, maybe not just as, I suppose there's a bit more protections in a traditional democracy than there would be in a totalitarian regime. But I still don't think it's not, I don't know. I feel like I get a lot of, not a lot of weird pushback, but it's just a weird response, even from me. Like I myself have a weird response if I ever call something propaganda, or like feel, refer to something as propaganda, only because it feels like it has a connotation with, Nazis or Stalin or something like that. But I certainly, I would believe that even in the modern sphere, as advanced as we are and everything, there are still many forms of propaganda that we encounter every day, and we're just kind of okay with, and we've just kind of accepted that as, or we don't even see it as propaganda. I guess that's the bigger issue, is that we kind of see it as, maybe we just call it misinformation now, not propaganda, but I kind of view them as different. Like, misinformation could be, like, I would say it's just like wrong information. Whereas propaganda generally has some kind of motive, right? There's some, even if it is like information, it can also be propaganda in the sense that it's inaccurate, but it's inaccurate only to validate something else. Like, especially, this is kind of the interesting part, just about, I guess, propaganda and the media and just information in general, is a lot of times if you begin even to have a debate on something, you then kind of validate its existence. Whereas if you like refuse to debate on something, you don't ever even like entertain the fact that something like this might exist. I think that's kind of the first, part of, misinformation or is like their propaganda is like, you don't ever, I guess it's the boil the frog analogy. Like, you don't go straight into, debunking some, conspiracy theory myth, Bush did 9/11 or something like that. You simply, start the debate on whether or not, just like debating the merits of the case. And even that kind of lends more legitimacy to something. Whereas if it is something ridiculous, some kind of conspiracy theory, like we didn't land on the moon, the fact that there is a debate now kind of validates the fact that there might be some room, it's not totally unreasonable to believe something like that. And that kind of goes in both directions. I think we often just think of like silly flat earth conspiracy theorists or, 9/11 truthers or whatever, as like the people who peddle, propaganda in some sense. But I feel like there's, even on, more progressive topics, there's still a lot of that same sentiment that can happen. And it's not just, I don't know, I feel like people think it's relegated. Maybe it's just people think they're smarter than they are, which is kind of my other beef. Maybe this is just more about younger people in general, but everyone seems so sure of everything. I don't know if it's just me, of being someone who questions a lot and is always kind of uncertain and kind of, I don't know, lives and dabbles with uncertainty constantly. But I guess so many other people just feel so confident in everything. Maybe that's just part of it, is like combating this imposter syndrome, is just, their solution is just to be ridiculously overconfident in everything. Like, they just know how everything works. They know how they know how everything works. Maybe that's why they're like, I don't know, more degenerate maybe than in generations past, is because even something like as literally random as like just gambling, it's like, well, they're so certain of everything. And I'm using a contemptuous they here, not to point fingers at anybody or speak about anybody. I'm speaking about maybe a younger generation in general. So I guess my generation, in general, that they seem more sure of things, right? They're like certain that, I guess they're certain in their nihilism, they're certain in all their science, and maybe it's just this access to information has given them so much, I don't know, has exposed them to so much consensus that they feel there's not much uncertainty left, which I think is a really stupid, really stupid position to have. And maybe I'm speaking out of my ass here only because I don't sympathize with this group, so to speak, of people who are, radically certain of stuff. But there's people that love to like have answers for stuff, right? Everyone has answers for everything. There's always an answer, right? If someone has they always have an opinion on something. Like, there's a lot of topics that I just genuinely don't have an opinion on, because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it's like, maybe I like have a vague conception of the topic at hand, but I by no means have any amount of like necessary information to make any kind of judgment whatsoever, right? I'm trying to think of an example here. Like, I don't know, like, I guess like something like an abortion law or something like that. I don't even know. I know what an abortion is. Obviously, I'm not that fucking stupid, but I don't even know anybody that has gotten it. I mean, I probably do actually. But either way, I don't know anything about, I don't know the stats on the topic. And honestly, I don't even care, right? I think that would be a situation where I think the ambivalence is the ambivalence of the topic itself does kind of give you, like, put you in on a side. Like, I would be on the side if I don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want, I suppose. So I suppose in that sense, I'd be on somebody's side. But even then, I don't know the statistics. And if, I don't know, there's some ridiculous statistic that validates one side or the other, I wouldn't know that. And even if I did, I wouldn't take that as gospel and something. I don't know, maybe it's just this strange relationship we have with data and information now, that we become so damn confident on everything. Whereas I feel like, in careers and, in money decisions and all this other stuff, like family decisions, we seem so meticulous in planning out what was going to happen, as if we know, or as if we have any fucking clue. I don't know, because it's funny as I see people like at my age that are like, fucking early mid-20s, even like late 20s and 30s, like planning out like their retirement and stuff. And I'm not saying that you should just ignore, 40 years down the line or whatever and not plan for retirement. It's certainly prudent to do that, and I'm not shaming them for it. But to think you have any fucking clue what's going to happen between now and when you're sick, you could die next year, right? And I'm not saying to plan for the case to die next year, but I feel like they live with such a high degree of certainty in every regard, or like planning on, I see this a lot in the financial markets where they have these projections about stuff. I don't know. I honestly think it's just as likely that, we progress steadily as we have for the next 10 years, just as likely that the entire thing literally blows up in our face in the next 10, and all this projection and planning is all fucking folly for nothing. I don't know, maybe I'm not very bullish on financial markets in general, just because I think I don't really see how it's not worth anything. I don't know, I hate to say that money's not worth anything or money's fake, because it is fake, and it's like, the belief in the currency, but somebody, at least starting with me, doesn't really believe in the whole idea of money in the first place. So, it's a belief in the money that holds it up, and that holds it up. Somebody doesn't believe in it. And that somebody might be me, but I'm obviously not representative of the population, but I'm just saying there's not, to view it with such certainty that like there's going to be these returns, or like, I don't know. At this point, it's like just gambling on stuff, even like something like the S&P 500. I don't know. I just don't see how. I mean, just from an economic growth perspective, I don't see how. Like, if you look at the graph of like, I don't know, the last 70 years, something like that, it's like a fucking, like a geometric, like an actual like explosion, right? Of like just quote unquote productivity. And I don't know, maybe I'm just looking around at the wrong people, but who the fuck is, I mean, what are these people? Most of these people aren't even doing anything. Like, I mean, productivity in terms of what? Like, everyone's just answering emails and like is on Slack, right? I mean, I've joked about how unproductive Windows is in general, and everyone fucking uses it, and it's just only getting slower and more bloated. And yet there's like somehow, our productivity is like quadrupling. And I mean, it must just all be on the farms that productivity is that high, because especially in all these white collar office jobs, I don't even see, their entire job is superfluous. So I don't even know how, what is the productivity measure there? I don't get it. I don't know. My prediction on the economy is just that if that pace, is even to, like, if you're going to draw a linear extrapolation, which is probably the dumbest curve that you could fit to the graph, even with a linear one, which is not that, was not that strong, there's no shot that, like, I mean, unless, everything is, I don't know, maybe we're going to enter this insane period of inflation or something like that. I just don't see how it's going to keep up. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? And I think if it does keep up, the question always comes to my mind is like, what the fuck are we going to be buying, right? It's like, in order for, I guess, $1 million is then $1 billion or $1 trillion, something like that. But then, like, in order to keep up with this level of like consumption, to keep the economy growing at this pace, there has to be this much money being spent. What the fuck are people going to even spending money on? Like, what are they buying? Like, I mean, how many accessories for your dog can you buy? Like, there's just no way that there's that much shit you can buy. I mean, people are already buying, objectively useless shit that not only they shouldn't buy, it should not have been produced. Like, whatever plant is responsible for like pumping out these, plastic fucking chairs, stop making them. Just don't make chairs. I mean, like, I'd rather fucking stand in whatever conference room you're going to stick that. Like, don't make this shit that sucks. I don't see why. Like, I get that, in some cases having something is better than nothing. But especially for like things that aren't necessary for life, don't make shitty plastic versions of it. Like, the Amazon Basics is the funniest thing. They aim at like everything that it makes is like D tier quality, and like I would never dream of, like, there's no shot it's gonna last any more than like 5 weeks. And maybe just people just don't, they just like buy shit and throw it out more often, which seems just wasteful. Whereas I'm someone who likes to, is it gonna last 10 or 20 or 30 years? That's kind of the measure I want to stick to it, because I want the shit I buy to last for a long time. I either don't want to buy it, or I want it to last, a long period of time, which is apparently a heretical idea now. Everyone's just buying stuff that lasts like 5 months, which is stupid, because you're going to be buying the same shit in 5 months. Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of buying a desk, or, I don't know, even like a keyboard or something that is like literally going to fall, like split in 2 pieces within 8 months? It's like, don't even buy it. Like, at that point, I'd rather just type on my fucking monitor or something stupid. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we're making more crappy stuff. Like, why not make good stuff? I don't see I know there's like economic like incentives to make shitty stuff, especially if you can sell it. But like, I think we should stop buying shitty stuff and stop making it. And I think the thing with economic growth is, if we continue in this ridiculous trajectory, we're going to be buying forget shitty stuff. We're going to be making stuff that is superfluous and shitty, like completely worthless. Like, plastic chairs for your dogs. I don't even fucking know what people are buying now. It's the stupidest shit ever. I don't know. I don't really care about the economy. I want to stop talking about that, so I'll move on. Speaking of dogs, this is just kind of a funny. I don't really know. I guess like you guys can form your own opinion on this. But I was around somebody and I heard them refer to they had a service dog and it had like the vest on it or something, and people make a big, fuss about the service dogs. And honestly, I'm not really sure what they're supposed to do. Like, I guess if you're blind, they can help you, but these people aren't blind. Or I guess if they're like, they're autistic and like there's noise or something. I don't even know what these dogs are for. Anyway, somebody referred to the dog as a life-saving medical device. And again, I'm trying to be on the, the more, I can accept the side of things, a bit more, open to accepting ridiculous propositions just because I spew so many. But this feels a little absurd. Like the dog being a life-saving medical device. I don't know if I buy that, right? If like you're putting it on the same, realm as like, I don't know, a heart stent or something that's like literally keeping you alive, like a pacemaker. You're equating like a dog, because does it know CPR, right? Is a dog gonna like revive you? No. I suppose if you like pass out and die, it's just gonna bark, or I don't know. Does it have like a chip in it that's gonna like call the cops? I'm not. I think equating it with a life-saving medical device is a bit ridiculous. I don't know that is how you can. Also, like referring to it as a device is an interesting, referendum. A dog is not really a device. Some people consider it. Some people like treat it more like a human than they would a device. But I don't know, I thought it was hilarious. Maybe this person's in the minority that referred to it as a life-saving medical device. But I just thought it was a ridiculous, kind of a ridiculous idea that this service dog, is a life-saving medical device. But I get that it's helpful for people, and it's, I guess if you're autistic or something, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. This lady was like, thinking of like the dog can't do CPR or something. It's a dog. It's not. It's gonna bark, I guess, if it does that, or it's gonna maybe it can like sniff out a hospital and go run there. But besides that, I don't know how it could be a life-saving medical device. It's not a Narcan spray or something. It's just, I don't know. Maybe these dogs are getting really advanced, and I'm just, I'm not giving them the credit that they deserve. But I'm just not convinced that the dog is a life-saving medical device, as this lady put it. But I'll move on here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's kind of this is kind of a classic Rusty take, because I love shitting on social media. So it's kind of my MO, honestly, at this point. And I don't know, I was talking to somebody, and they, I'm obviously like, I'm not on any of it. And when I view it as a vice. So even if I do like view YouTube videos, it's like the same as me like eating dessert. That's kind of the way I, it's not even that like I enjoy it, because I don't. And that's kind of my point with this. This is where I was going with it. I don't think social media is not enjoyable for anybody. Like, look at anybody who's doom scrolling. Do any of them look happy necessarily? No. I think that's quite obvious. Nobody's like happy scrolling. I think instead of saying that it's like enjoyable, I think it is numbing. That is the word I would use for it. Because I was talking to somebody, and I was like, yeah, I'm not on any social media. And they're like, yeah. But like, why don't you just like enjoy yourself? And I'm like, I don't buy that social media is enjoyable. It's not. Look at anybody who's doom scrolling. None of them, even if they're not doom scrolling, they're meme scrolling, or whatever I don't even know what these people look at all day anyway. Certainly not reading, literature or Shakespeare or Homer or anything. But anyway, they're not happy. They're just numb. And that's not a state of mind that I ever want to be in, is numb, right? And that's like same with like doing drugs and stuff. It's a numbing thing. So it's kind of on the same. Obviously, I'm not trying to equate a meth addiction to social media, but it still kind of fills the same void, right? I'm not saying they are the same. I'm saying it fills the same role. And the other part about drug addiction is a lot of people are like, I can't imagine any reason to ever do drugs. I can think of 5,000 reasons to do drugs. Like, are you serious? Like, what a stupid, brain dead statement to make. Of course, there are a gajillion reasons to do drugs, and a lot of them aren't really ones that I can even argue with, because for a lot of people, at least with their notion of what a good life is, and with life can suck ass for a lot of these people, and they haven't really been well equipped to deal with it. So I know why people would do drugs. So it's not like it's a really stupid idea. They're like, I can't admit why anyone would do drugs. Now, I think it's a horrible idea, but I don't like abolish the idea that it's just an absurd, solution. People I don't know. I can see thousands of reasons why people would want to do drugs, or they, or whatever. But I'm not endorsing it as a practical solution. It's not, from every perspective, from health, economic, personal, self-growth. I certainly agree with this old boomer in saying that it is viceful, but like to say that you couldn't imagine there's no reason to be doing drugs, you're an idiot. I don't know why. Like, really, you can't imagine why anyone would want to get high and like forget about all the shit they have going on. And part of it is because I think like I said, I think people are not very well equipped to deal with a lot of modern problems, which, is part of their own fault, I guess, in some ways, to not be well equipped. Because in some cases you do know better, but in a lot of ways they haven't really been set up to be very like robust. If you ask me, that's a funny word to use. If you ask me, like, if humans now, or the average person now, I guess humans is a little general. If the Western human now is more robust than they were 50 or 60 years ago, obviously not. Like, I mean, people today are comparably soft, at least like maybe in like a physical sense, or like in an emotional sense. Now everyone's got, a ton of these, like, I guess mental illnesses are more normalized and stuff, but those don't even exist. People just like, didn't have like, manic depressive disorders and psychosis. They were just, oh, this person's fucking crazy. That's what they said. This guy's, oh, he's possessed by the devil. And you just kind of live with this weird devil guy in your village or whatever the fuck, or your town. And that was just, that's not 60 years ago, but you get the point. But I don't see people today as like infinitely more strong and robust. And sure, they might be more educated in like a global sense. They might have they have better access to data and information, and they might know more math or something, right? Like, I think that's not what I'm comparing here, but if we're talking about, like, I guess, I don't know, the word I'm using here is robust. I'm not, there's in no way, I don't think you can argue that human, like the American Zoomer is this robust individual capable of dealing with complex, like, personal and interpersonal problems. Now, to be fair, people in the older generations had equally horrible coping mechanisms, like domestic abuse, alcoholism was rampant. There's all kinds of problems that older boomer generations, while they were tougher, they still had horrible neuroses to deal with these problems. But my argument is that we're not any more, if anything, we're just as neurotic and kind of weak-willed as the boomers were. The boomers might have just have a better veneer of hiding it, kind of, so to speak. But to think that we're like infinitely more like stronger, I guess, just have stronger willpower. Like, no, you can't even get people to get off the couch. I mean, look around. I think a very basic metric for this is just like health. I mean, I hate to berate on the topic of like being physically in shape, just because I have said before, I think it's a moral duty that you should treat. It's almost like you should rent your body. Like, you're given this body and you need to like earn rent, meaning like, go to the gym or get exercise in some way. Walking doesn't count. You kind of have to earn the fact that, like, your body or whatever. That's kind of the way I look at it. But the easy way to look at that is just look at the lack of, the average shape is like pear shaped now, which is not a shape that anyone wants to look at. And it's unfortunate that I have to phrase it that way, but that's kind of the way it is. I don't know that I could do it, without being inaccurate. I could be any more, delicate with it. I'm sure I could. I just don't. I'm not in that articulate frame of mind. So pear-shaped is what I land on. But either way, I don't think that people are like, these robust, healthy, strong. No, people are fucking weak-willed. They're weaker now than they've ever been. They're only getting weaker. And I'm including myself in all of these, blamings. I'm not saying that there's no generation that's better. They have their own problems. And now the ones growing up now have no ability to deal with anything. They have horrible coping mechanisms. Part is, things have become so hilariously convenient, right? You can just, pretty much order DoorDash, and some, poor North African on an electric bike is going to go drive to your fucking sub shop and pick up your 1,400 calorie sandwich that's loaded with fat. And I'm not really, I guess in some ways I'm kind of advocating for less convenience, especially on the front of technology. So obviously I think that things being physically arduous is good for us, just our psyche, to just, have fucking weight on your back, so to speak. But I certainly think that, I don't know, there's just a reduction in conveniences would be helpful for everybody, because modern life is perhaps a little too convenient for people, given that they, I don't know, because you want to be, and that's the same reason I kind of, my life could be a lot easier on myself, that it would require nothing, but my goal isn't to have this, like, a jokingly easy life. That's not the point. And the point is also isn't have the hardest life possible. It's not like, it's kind of, there's a middle ground between, like, David Gogginsing yourself and basically, waking up and waterboarding yourself for 14 hours and running a marathon. Like, you don't have to do that, but you also can't, just morally, you just cannot sit on the fucking couch and order DoorDash and, like, complain about, vague financial problems that, whatever, about the economy or something stupid. Or that you have to answer, Slack messages for your job. Is there no nuance anymore? I don't know. I feel like there maybe this isn't really, not really arguing with anyone here, maybe. But there certainly feels like there's, I don't know, there's some nuance that we've lost with things being more difficult, but not in, like, I don't know, life-threatening sense. I'm not saying we have to go back to, having malaria and stuff. And that's the argument I always get in with people, is that, like, I make a vague sentiment against kind of this accelerationist and adopting technology and, like, abstracting every piece of our lives to whoever, Big Brother and co. And people are like, well, what about these, what about, medicine? We have better medicine now. Like I said, I would be very curious to see the economic impact of less fat people. I mean, there's not really, I wish there was a better way for me to say that, but I honestly, we could save trillions of dollars in this, economy you're so worried about, if people just quit eating themselves to death. I mean, and it's not even that, like, it's not even like you have to go out and, like, fetch water and clean. No, you just have to stop eating as much shit. Like, you don't even have to eat, like, better per se. Like, yeah, you can obviously order salads and stuff, but, like, just consuming less calories. There's a guy that lost weight just eating Twinkies, because it's a very simple formula of calories in, calories out. So even if you are just eating Twinkies, you don't have to be putting on pounds. Like, you can just, I mean, you're not going to be full, and you're going to have to be hungry, and you're going to be, oh my, I'm hungry, I should eat. It's like, I think you should recognize that as a primitive instinct. In the same way, I'm not going to, like, run around, pull my pants down, try to fuck every hole I find, because I'm not a monkey, right? Have we not evolved past that? So in the same way, you should be able to be hungry for a little bit without going into, crazy psychosis mode and, gorging down every calorie you can find, just because that was an evolutionary incentive for you. So I don't know. We battle our biology in a lot of strange ways, and I think, I don't know, calories is a pretty simple one we can get a hold of quite easily. And the fact that with such a trivial problem conceptually, we're having so much difficulty with it, collectively, it's a little concerning for me, and is, I guess, kind of aids in my cynicism when I'm musing about these topics. But I don't know, it kind of is what it is. I suppose on the extending the bit about me being or about psychosis, I think I don't know, the more I get unplugged, I guess I'm already pretty abstracted from everything. But even just, like, the more I remove myself from I guess a lot of society's influences and all that, in all the different ways, that's one of my active pursuits, is try to remove as much of this, kind of bloat, and all, mostly just through not consuming all the crap that everybody produces. I am kind of moving towards what I guess the Overton window would diagnose me as extreme, or a I don't know, psycho, or whatever. Or a domestic terrorist, right? I think you could even have some shrink talk to me or listen to these stupid banters, and he could probably be like, yeah, this guy's got severe mania or mania psychosis and is a terrorist and some. I'm sure you could come up with all kinds of adjectives that describe how much of a fucking weirdo I am and how much of a threat I am to whatever. Not that I've only made, like, veiled threats at and not even at specific people. So legally, I'm fine, which I've been smart about. Regardless, I've noticed that I guess the more I spend time reflecting, and especially like reading, I read books, I read all kinds of books. I've mentioned in these musings the books I read and my blog and stuff. I've realized that I've become what society would deem me as an extremist, but despite not really being an extremist. And I don't mean an extremist in like some weird Trump Republican that believes that we didn't land on the moon. Like, that's obviously not the conspiracy. I'm not like a tinfoil hat extremist, but I think you could certainly, find some person with a psychology degree from a community college to tell me that, that I'm extreme in my views. And while I could be like scared and like retreat back to what society would deem normal, I'm almost glad that I am like the fucking crazy one now. Because the thing is, I know that I'm not crazy, and I've always been, at least, again, self-perception is hard, but pretty level-headed when it comes to things, and I've considered things carefully, thinking about multiple sides. And again, the more I reflect on things, the more I come to embrace, I guess, what would be more and more increasingly ridiculous or frowned upon views when it comes to society. And while some would be scared of these like developments, and I should instead retreat back to what society is okay with, I think I still think I'm right, and it might be my downfall. It might be the end of me that I think I'm right. But I truly think I think somebody, maybe this is like, I'm quoting Lucifer here, actually. I'm not even sure who was going, but it's like, it's better to, I guess he said it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. But I think it's better to, this is not Lucifer, this is someone else. It's better to, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And what I think a lot of people, I guess I'm just being pretty vague in that sentiment. I think there's a lot of people that would quickly go to their knees when them being critical or perhaps, unconventional or weird or extreme in their views would bring them to their knees. And they're quick to do that only because it's more comforting. I don't care. Like, I suppose the most extreme views I have aren't political per se. I don't give a fuck about politics. I've made that infinitely clear. But like with technology, I would be an extremist, right? I run a minimalist Linux environment. I pretty much refuse to use any technology I don't have to. I despise the usage of ID everywhere. Oh my God. It's the fact that everywhere you go now on the internet is just basically every single turn, you have to just identify yourself. And not to mention, I'm in CAPTCHA hell for probably like 30, 45 minutes a day, just trying to access just like very generic domains. I'm not even doing anything weird or crazy, but I'm in CAPTCHA hell, for, probably not an hour a day, but a lot of the day I'm just answering CAPTCHAs, which is bullshit. I should not be answering CAPTCHAs. And a lot of times if I don't have to answer them, I won't. But like with technology, I think it's very easy to see that like I have extremist tendencies, in the sense that I would very willingly throw out my phone. I think once I will downgrade to a clamshell, and that's not even a joke. I will. Once I can. I practically can't right now, but I think even that, the fact that I can't practically downgrade to a clamshell is part of what is as difficult for me to digest, I think, just socially. And it's part of why I kind of sound the alarm at certain things, especially when it comes to adoption of technologies. Only because I don't know. And perhaps I'm seeing through the wrong crystal ball here, and I'm just, I don't know, again, some psychotic mania loser who has, is a conspiracy theorist who used Linux or something. I just think it's gravely concerning that I have to, everything is tied to this stupid phone. I got these apps or everything. I'm not downloading these stupid I don't want the apps. I want to get to a point where I can go to places and they're like, oh, well, do you have the app? I'm going to say, no, I don't even have a phone. They're going to go, well, you can't buy this. And I'm going to go, well, isn't that kind of bullshit, right? You're forcing me to have a proprietary app on a proprietary phone that I don't want to use and carry it around with me so anyone can track me every time they want. And the thing is, it's like, that's part of why it sounds like such a conspiracy theory. Because for the longest time, I didn't really understand the technology, right? Even as like somebody with a college degree, I didn't really understand the technology. And as I got deeper into, I guess, understanding it all, like the underlying protocols, the technology itself, and that's really when I was like, oh my God, this it's not even like a joke. That like, I mean, it's crazy that like the almost the conspiracy theorist-esque people with technology are the ones that like are right. You know, it's not even like the moon landing people who are just making up more and more ridiculous stuff to back up their claims. It's like even someone like Richard Stallman, which, you know, total weirdo, completely autistic, but it's fine. You know, all of his predictions about, you know, like how technology is used and how big tech, like how big tech operates. Literally, it's all true, and you can validate it for yourself almost. But people are so ignorant about the technology that they don't bother. They just kind of assume that somebody will protect them. You know, some vague authority will protect them. And my kind of understanding and my knowledge now is that there is nobody to protect you. You're kind of on your own. The government is too slow, too big, and they don't care. And they almost benefit from a lot of the surveillance that happens. And people are just so ignorant of it. This was myself even just a few years ago, that again, I've become like this weird, like eco-fascist extremist person. I mean, just in the realm of technology. I'm obviously not the, you know, eco-fascist or whatever. I don't even know what the fuck these terms even mean anymore. You know, fascism thrown around like fucking cotton candy. I don't know what the fuck what is a fascist now? Just a Nazi? But what's even a Nazi? Like, all the Nazis are dead now. That was like 100 years ago, right? Is there an American Nazi? Is that a thing? You know, or National Socialist? Please define that, right? Can we talk? I don't know. People throw out these terms all the time that don't make any fucking sense. Regardless, I'm kind of this like extremist, and I wouldn't say like a terrorist extremist. I'm extremist when it comes to my relationship with technology. I refuse a lot of it. I would rather sit alone in my room contemplating suicide than to go on Instagram. And that sounds, that again, that is an extreme opinion. I totally understand that is a ridiculous opinion, and most people would rather, you know, use, you know, benignly scroll on Instagram. But no, I would rather, if the alternative was in, it was literally contemplating suicide, I would rather think about that than to go 10 minutes on Instagram, which again makes me kind of the extremist. But I truly think that it is, you know, it's that threatening to normalize what I consider to be like strange, like I ridiculous behavior, right? Behavior of, I don't know, an animal. And it's, I don't know, it's unfortunate to me that I'm kind of ostracizing myself, and it's weirder that I'm okay with all of it, right? I don't care that people are like, what the fuck is Linux? Why are you using this? Like, why don't you have a phone? You know, what, like, how was I supposed to email you? Like, you don't have an Instagram? Like, no, I don't have any of it. And I am fine with it. And the more I think about it, the more I am totally okay with my decision, which either means, I guess the underlying question is, I'm either finding myself or losing myself. And that's kind of the, you know, it's a $1 million question. You know, am I becoming more of who I am supposed to be or who I am? Or am I losing myself and becoming this radical person who you're going to read about in 10 years, who I don't even know what I'm not a violent person. I'm not fucking Ted Kaczynski. But you probably won't ever read about me. I will be obscure as I am now, probably forever. But regardless, the interesting question of being, is this more of who I am or less of who I am? And I don't know, I even look back just on my older videos, and of course I obviously agree with myself now more than I did then, but I certainly think my views have changed a lot. I guess being specifically around a lot of the technology and its usage. Other stuff I don't think I've changed as much. I think it's been, I don't know, I still hold a lot of the same values I had before, dear. I do think it's better defined though. I think before I was a little more vague and uncertain about how I was going to go about, I don't know, doing, I guess, living towards the principles that I was living. And I really wasn't as philosophically inclined. I guess I thought that there was a lot more of a separation between, you know, your work and your philosophy. Like you could do your work independent of a philosophy. But I think I've come around and thinking that, and kind of believing that the work you do is your philosophy. Like what you do is who you are, and not in the sense that like what you do for like money or your day job is who you are, but what you spend your time doing is who you are, right? So if you spend all day scamming grandmas, but you like go home and like love your wife or something, you still spend your time scamming old people, and you're a shithead for that. And I don't care how lucrative a career you're having, to feed your family, you're still a bag of shit for doing that. And I don't give a fuck. I will starve and die before I let my philosophy leave me, for the security of money. And in that sense, I wouldn't. I mean, in some very, very primitive level, I don't deserve to live any more than the people I'm taking their money from. So I don't know. I've been a lot more. I think I'm a lot more hell bent on, again, what you put your time towards doing. Not necessarily like your work. I think even the idea of work and the word work has been fucked over, and no one even knows what that means anymore. It just doesn't. I guess what you spend your time doing is who you are, and what you spend your time engaging with and thinking about is who you are and who you become. Right? So if you spend all day listening to Joe Rogan and conspiracy theories or whatever, I have a hard time believing that has no influence on you and you're going to be the same person, right? If anything, you're just influencing yourself in a particular direction. I'm just very wary of what I spend my time doing and what I focus on. And as I spent lots of time reading, meditating, and writing, again, a lot of times in a vacuum. I don't have much inputs. My inputs are, you can see what I read and what I look at. It's on my fucking website, the links.md or links.html. I'm on my blog page. Those are my inputs. Other than that, it's like mostly me just at a terminal, reading stuff I've already written or reading books that are pretty well. I mean, I read very well-known books. I mean, Carl Jung, a lot of these writers are, Aurelius. These are not like obscure writers. These are, Aurelius is a well-known philosopher. He was an emperor. He wasn't even a philosopher. Regardless, it's not like I have these absurd inputs and I'm like reading all this ridiculous shit or like listening to Joe Rogan or for 40 hours a week. I don't even read that much comparatively. Like I think I don't go through that many. I read for maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day, which I guess over time, adds up to a lot of books. But it's not like I'm reading for 60 hours, a week or something ridiculous. I'd say I'd probably spend more time writing. I write a lot that you don't see on the blog, and it ends up in this huge text document. But hopefully the ideas come out at some point. And again, none of them are, a lot of them are in ideas of rumination that I've kind of mulled around in my head and thought about. It's not like I'm taking too much. I'm not very gluttonous in my input. I'm on kind of an information diet, so to speak, through omission and not through curation. I don't know. Some people are very, it's weird. They like try to gamify their quote unquote information diet to be like high quality scientific information or something. I honestly think you're better off like just not eating, right? Like to continue the metaphor, you're better off just like limiting the amount that you eat. Because ultimately you don't need to eat anything when it comes to this like information diet. Like you don't have to watch, like take it from me as someone who hasn't, you don't have to watch anything. You don't have to follow your sports teams. You don't have to game. You don't have to do any of it. None of it. Like it's not anything. Is you don't even enjoy it. It's like really look around. Like when's the last time you were like elated? Smiling and laughter and clapping and having a jolly old time. Scrolling through, essentially porn on TikTok or whatever the fuck you're watching. Right? You don't even enjoy it. Like don't even lie to yourself. You don't enjoy this, so stop doing it. And you don't have to, no one's making you watch it. It's not like, school or something where they would force you to sit there, or your job, or you have to sit there and do whatever. No one's making you stop doing that. Just quit it. Like, I think you'd literally rather be in silence. And I guess the alternative for some people is to contemplate suicide instead of 10 minutes on Instagram. And some people don't have the stomach for that, which I guess I understand. But I made it clear that my position on that is I would rather be, have, battle my own demons for hours and hours on end than to spend moments numbing myself from what perhaps should be is pain that will come. Like I have to pay the piper in one way or the other, and I can battle my demons straight on, or I could take a bunch of medicine and do all this other weird doom scroll and distract myself constantly for 24 hours a day, and then take sleeping medication to put myself, like, what are these people doing, right? I mean, what happened? Like, I feel like they've made everything so convoluted with all of these weird neuroses and pills and alcohol and everything that numbs people, instead of just living with something that's authentic and real. I don't know, that's at least me with my own thoughts, is those are as real as they are to me as anything else, right? They're certainly a lot more real than whatever the fuck I'm looking at on my phone, or my computer, or some stupid blog that some dipshit wrote, of course, talking about me, because I'm the one who writes dipshit blogs. But anyway, it just feels a lot more real with my own thoughts than anything else. And like, obviously my own thoughts is not the objective truth on all matters. Like, I'm sure that there's plenty of things that swirl around in my head that are probably just wrong, I guess, on a scientific or, moral level or something like that. But I think ruminating about them and coming to your own conclusion, and I don't know, I guess just ruminating a lot is in general something I stand strongly beside. I think it's a necessary part of just growth, and it's not fun. It's like, I would love to say that it's like this, getting off of everything is being this like wonderful orgasmic experience where you can just enjoy life and everything's so cool. No, a lot of times it sucks because nobody else is doing it, so you're like socially just ostracized. You don't have any, there's no memes, there's nothing. It's like, it's just kind of empty, which again is cathartic, and it's, it's kind of like, like mowing grass or something. It's not like you enjoy doing it. It's not like I roll out of bed excited to like ruminate on existentialism and like read books about the meaninglessness of life, or like philosophy and stuff that we'll never know. But it's life. It's real, right? I don't know. It's just, I'd rather live, with the reality of it than to kind of coax myself into some, fanciful bullshit that is, I'm eventually gonna have to face the reality of anyway. So I don't know. Maybe some people just think that they can kind of outrun this process of like this difficult, arduous process of, becoming thyself and knowing yourself and developing skill, like even like learning. Like people are like, oh, learning is going to be so fun. Learning is not fun. Learning is like basically equivocal to effort. If you want to learn something, pretty much, if you just put in effort, it's almost linear with the fucking relate. You will learn if you try. Like that's all learning is just trying, right? And yes, people have different like abilities to try and ability, like patience and stuff. Like these are not, like not everyone has the same ability to learn, and in that sense. But like learning is pretty much just trying. Like if you don't try, you'll never learn anything. And it's not fun. It's like learning is not fun. It is effort, right? And I guess if learning is fun for you, then I guess congratulations, and you have no excuse not to be learning all the time. But regardless, I think people have this weird thing that things need to be easy or convenient, and I'm also advocating against all of that. I think life, there's a lot of, we need to kind of introduce inconvenience and difficulty and, I don't know, again, ruminating on existential crises as part of like this process of, growing to be yourself. Because again, for better or worse, I feel more like myself than I did, 2 years ago, and even the days that I read and think, and not like joy clapping like a seal of how happy I am that I just spent 4 hours, writing and, kind of thinking about what I'm thinking and trying to dissect my own, thoughts. But it's cathartic, and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of what I think needs to happen. I mean, a lot of people maybe it's part of just growing up, right? I think maybe in an age before we're able to sedate ourselves and distract ourselves with stuff, people were kind of forced just by situation and circumstance to spend a lot more time with themselves and be very, very in tune with themselves and understand that, kind of, again, embrace their demons, so to speak, and like know their tendencies and things. We were able to skip all that now, which might sound like a good thing, but it's not. I don't think we're battling too much of our biology, right? In that sense, or not even that sense, it's not even biology, it's like psychology that we don't really understand, right? I don't think you can't run away from, psychological demons that plague you. So I guess to give an example, some people are more of the like depressive type, like when they spend time alone and thinking about themselves, they get very depressed and sad. I don't really get sad. That's not my inkling. I'm more close to like irascibility, like anger, and frustration is where my is where my negative emotions go, right? That's kind of my inkling. It's like if I'm having a really bad day, I'm not sad, not really in a beyond a surface level sense, but I'm like, I'll get angry about stuff. Which again, I understand that, and I kind of almost let myself be angry to understand that it's part of the human process to understand where your tendencies are. And some people, if you never know, how you act or what you do or what your tendencies are, you've never spent time, knowing thyself. Then you're just gonna, I could have just not known this and been, being a drunk instead or something like that. And I've kind of known this forever, ever since I was a kid. I'm pretty sure people thought I had anger issues when I was a kid. I used to get pissed at all kinds of stuff all the time, and I kind of knew that, but, and that's part of it, I guess. I don't know. And there's some of that I can't get rid of, right? I could take drugs every day to make sure I don't get angry. No, you can't be angry ever. No, that's what is humanity without some of the emotions, the good ones and the bad ones, right? If I take away all the days and hours I spend angry, I'm probably just subtracting from the same ones I can be happy and I can't enjoy everything, or the ones I can be sad. Misery is wasted on the miserable, to quote a short skit I saw. But regardless, I'm not like, I shouldn't be terrified of these like emotions and things that I have. Not in like a therapy sense where like, oh, you need to come to terms with me being sad and stuff, and I gotta, but people like want to battle all this stuff and win. It's like, I'll never like conquer these. It's not gonna be my, it's like, you almost have to like live with your devils, kind of, so to speak. I guess this is getting wishy-washy and into the kind of psychological subconscious realm. But I think instead of like, I guess in a very, very high level sense, what I'm saying is, instead of pushing down or ignoring lower impulses or your shadow selves, or your animus and anima, like your female and male, however you want to abstract, the bullshit that, drives your emotional decisions, you cannot like kill them. You can't kill your shadow self. Like if there's a serial killer inside all of us, you can't just kill them. Like, sure, you can use drugs and whatever to like hide them and, for a couple years, but you eventually have to pay the piper. And that comes in all the forms. You have to pay the piper with all the shit, like all the doom scrolling you're doing now, you'll pay the piper later. So I feel like there's a lot of necessary kind of maturation, to put it in, I guess, boomer terms or something. A lot of maturation that people need to do, and that I am kind of doing to myself, because I think it is part of the human experience. It's not like I enjoy doing it. I don't like doing it, but it's important. It's my duty almost to, be that person that develops and not just is a kid their whole fucking life. Same way with like going to the gym. I'm not clapping to go put 500 pounds on my fucking back. No, it is almost like it's my duty, right? It's like my rent. I have to pay rent and I have to develop. It's part of my job as a human. It almost feels intrinsic to my value. And I think ignoring that, would lead to a lot of other problems. I'd pick up some stupid vaping addiction or eat a bunch and be fat. All stuff that I'm not willing to do. And I guess I wish other people didn't do, but I have no control over that. So not really my thing. So I hope you are able to accept and live with your own demons and, create you as you, and not just some dude who's addicted to pills and vapes and sugar or whatever the fuck else these people do all day. Anyway, I've rambled enough. I don't even know if this will probably get banned, but anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.